Right, so this site was burned in 2007. It was a low to medium intensity burn. The fuel weight beforehand was something in the order of 12 to 14 tonnes per hectare. At this stage it looks, just off the top of my head, like it's still well below about 4 tonnes per hectare, which is about right for this community, which is Eucalyptus pulchella dry woodland. If you pan down and look, you'll see there's still lots of bare dirt throughout the whole area. There's no real blanket of grasses, plants and leaf litter. The grasses themselves have come back once and have seeded at least twice since. Many of the small shrubs have, like on here, have been killed outright. A few others in some spots have survived. That's okay. With the eucalypts, some of the ones that were suffering are sprouting from the base. That one there, there's another just over there. And overall, it looks like that there's at least another 6, maybe 8 years, depending on how the seasons go, before this is starting to get to a point where the fuel weight is getting to be an issue. So the other thing to see that's coming back from the burn, there are very few weeds in here. The weeds for this area are primarily things like gorse, broom, a couple of mainland grevilleas. They are here, but they've not really come back after the disturbance of the fire, which is very nice. So yeah, this site will just be monitored every once in a while for the next 5 years at least, and then we'll start to come under more active fuel studies to see when the next time round for its burn will be. Okay, so the piece that you saw at the start of that little pan is unburned shrubby dry sclerophyll. It's on a easterly facing slope, so it doesn't get the maximum amount of sun, particularly through the summer. It hasn't been burned in quite a long time, and the fuel loads are probably something in the order of 15 to 18 tonnes per hectare. Behind me, further up behind the black patch, is a spot that was burned about 3.5 years ago, which was very similar in its overall floristics, density, fuel load and things. And that is coming back reasonably well. A lot of the shrubs, which were a little bit more adapted to wetter conditions, don't have the same ability to come back quickly after a burn. So there's been a few species lost from just that area, but we're expecting they will recolonise because there's a refuge just here behind us. Not behind me, behind you. Where I'm standing right now was only burned about 3-4 weeks ago, if that. It was a medium to, actually it was a low to quite low intensity. You can see that a lot of the shrubs that have died still have most of their leaves and things on board. It's the scorch at the base which has killed them rather than the flame just immolating the entire lot. Over time those will fall off. It'll look like the twigs from further up the hill. But this was a site that always had to be burned at a very low intensity to make sure that it didn't just jump up and run away on us. That by picking weather that was on a marginal day for just being able to get it burning, we were able to reduce the fuel without having a fire of too great an intensity that it was actually manageable for our staff on the day. So we're expecting that over the next few years this will start to look more like it does just up the hill there. The grasses, tussock graminoids and the drier species will come back very quickly, and then over the following decade perhaps, the wetter things like the Bedfordia, what this is a dead one of, right here, and some of the other more moisture-loving fellows will be coming back in. In that time, we won't need to touch this for anything at all, so that succession will be able to proceed without too much interference. Like the previous site we were at, very weed-free, which is, again, quite nice for a patch of bush which is within sight of the site of suburbia. That's just luck. Okay, we're in a little corner between the firebreak and the early 2007 burn. We're in amongst some acacia melanoxylon, some blackwoods, and directly underneath some very large blue gums. And the fuel load here is probably something in the order of maybe 20 to 25 tonnes per hectare of fine fuel. This depth of fuel is characteristic for immediately around some of these big litter producing species, but it's not typical for the wider area. So spotting this and planning for it when the burn is about to be done, you'll know that this will always burn hotter and longer than the lighter fuel areas, so you'll need to plan around that and expect that the longer heat intensity and duration will have an even greater effect on the recovery, and particularly of things like these acacias, which are not generally regarded as the most fire adapted of species. They do okay, but they're not specialists for it. So here we are in a piece of reserve edge defendable space. It's the boundary between the reserve itself and the nearby houses. This is effectively the last defence point for any fire that might be coming through the reserve. The size and management regime for this is designed to be adequate to the needs of the assets nearby, so they're always tuned to fit where they belong, and it is monitored through every summer so that this fuel reduced area will be available should the big crackly one come.